Colleagues, I know you're looking forward to this. The honor to inform the House that the Clerk of the House has received from the Chief Electoral Officer a certificate of election and return of Mr. Stewart, member for the Electoral District of Toronto, St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, it is an honor to present to you Don Stewart, the member for the Electoral District of Toronto St. Paul's. He has taken the oath, signed the roll, and now claims the right to take his seat.
Let the honourable member take his seat.
Congratulations. Good luck to you here. I'm really happy that you joined us. It's the best place you'll ever be. Good luck. Take care, sir. Call me Greg.
Questions orales. Oral questions. Lanahab.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. For 9 years, the Liberal bloc has put a tax on your food, causing your groceries to be more expensive, doubled the cost of housing, and doubled the national debt. With the full support of the bloc has voted over 200 times to keep this party and this government in power. And now they want to increase your taxes even more. Isn't it time for you to have the chance to choose a new common sense government that will cut taxes, build housing, fix the budget, and stop crime? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, if the opposition leader had spent any time speaking to Canadians this summer, he would realize that Canadians want solutions. They want solutions to the challenges they face as families with fighting climate change. They want to know how Canada is going to position itself for the economy of the future. But the opposition leader is only interested in his own interests, not Canadians' interests. Meanwhile, we on the other side of the House here will continue to work to deliver the goods to Canadians to build a stronger economy for all. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, what Quebecers see is the biggest expansion of the federal government in Canadian history, a centralizing government and a costly one at that. And all this with the full support of the Bloc, which has voted some 200 times for inflationary spending, centralizing spending, and bureaucracy, which totals $500 billion. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers have the right to have a common-sense government that will cut taxes, build housing, fix the budget, and stop crime now. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. What we're doing, Mr. Speaker, when we announced in Quebec a significant investment in Telesat to create good jobs in Quebec, which will have an impact on productivity and national security in Canada and all around the world, the Conservative response was to call their friend Elon Musk to say, no, you can't send those jobs here to Canada. Instead, you should be giving your money to American billionaires. We find that completely far-fetched. We are here to invest in Quebecers for the future.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes up, costs up, crime's up, time's up. And now he wants a 300% carbon tax hike, all the way up to 61 cents a litre. Why not let Canadians choose a common-sense Conservative government that will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime now?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
If the opposition had spent any time listening to Canadians over the summer, he would have heard that they need solutions. They need answers to the challenges they're facing. That's not what he's offering. Indeed, he doesn't care about Canadians. He just cares about himself and his own political interests. We're going to keep focused on doing the things that he refuses to do, whether it's him voting against dental care, whether it's him voting against child care, whether it's him voting against a national school food program. We're going to still deliver the things that matter to Canadians, like food in kids' bellies, child care spaces, and supports for seniors to go to the dentist, many of them first time in years.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Children are hungrier than ever after 9 years of the NDP Liberals. In fact, 25% of them are not getting enough food, and we now know why. A carbon tax fraud has been perpetrated by this NDP Liberal Prime Minister, who kept secret Environment Canada documents that showed that the carbon tax was blowing a $25 billion hole in our economy. Our economy per capita is smaller today than it was 10 years ago, during which time the American economy has grown by 19%. Instead of a reckless plan to hike the tax to 61 cents a litre, why not allow Canadians to vote to axe the tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Here's a news flash for the Conservative leader. Climate change costs money, and what would cost the most money to Canadians at all is his do-nothing climate plan. News flash: when the Toronto subway gets flooded, it costs money. News flash: when forest fires hit communities across this country, it costs Canadians money to rebuild. When you have droughts that hit farmers and agriculturists across this country, it costs money. What doesn't cost money is putting money in 8 out of 10 of the money of Canadians' pockets with the Canada Carbon Rebate to support their families and fight climate change.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just proved my point. His tax doesn't stop floods, fires, or droughts. All it does is create more poverty. This also from a high-flying, high-taxing, high-carbon hypocrite who flew 92,000 kilometers in a fuel-guzzling, tax-funded private jet while he taxes single moms and seniors for heating their homes. Now, Carbon Tax Carney wants him to put the tax back on home heating oil. Will he reject Carbon Tax Carney and instead allow Canadians to choose to axe the tax?
Just want to remind all members, and to do so early, to be very mindful of their language that they use in referring to other members in this House. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader doesn't believe in climate change, and that's why he has a do-nothing plan to fight climate change. It would cost Canadians money and challenge the future we're building for our kids. Our plan, with the Canada Carbon Rebate, puts more dollars in 8 out of 10 Canadians' pockets right across the country, supports the middle class and people working hard to join it, while delivering the kinds of investments that are going to grow our our economy and reduce emissions at the same time. This is a responsible climate plan that fights climate change and supports Canadians. He wants to do nothing. He wants to hurt Canadians.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, allow me first of all to wish a warm welcome to everyone. Welcome back here to all of us. It's a by-election in La Salle Aymar Verdun today, and I'd like the Prime Minister to explain to retired people aged 65 to 74 in that riding why their pension checks are 10% lower than retirees who are 75 and over. This is a horrible form of discrimination, and they're entitled to know why. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we did recognize that seniors 75 and over have higher costs and often lower savings. So we've increased investments for them. But what I don't really understand, Mr. Speaker, is that the Bloc, which claims to be concerned about people of that age group, those 65 and over, why did they vote against dental care for those tens of thousands of seniors all across Canada who've recently been able to get dental care paid by the federal government, and the Bloc voted against it? They don't care about seniors in the Bloc. Once again, I'd like members to stick to language that's much more clearly parliamentary. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, it's easy to get the Prime Minister confused. I'm talking about a jurisdiction that is exclusive to Quebec, that the federal government has encroached upon. He also said that Anglophones in Quebec couldn't get health care services in English the same as Francophones. That's false. So I would ask him explicitly to recognize that he misled Montreal, Quebec, and La Salle Aymar Verdun's Anglophones when he said that Anglophones don't get the same health care services as Francophones. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. He claims to speak for the government of Quebec, but the government of Quebec itself admitted that they were going to issue an order to clarify and explain that they were not going after Anglophones. We're still waiting for that explanation, but if the government of Quebec can recognize that, then I think the Bloc should be able to acknowledge it too. So for seniors over 65 who got dental care thanks to us, they don't care about them. They just want their jurisdiction, but we're providing something that Quebec was not providing, and so the federal government stepped up and paid for that so that those seniors could get dental care that their own government, provincial government, wasn't providing them, and the Bloc voted against that. The honourable member for New Westminster, Burnaby. The housing crisis in La Salle Aymar Verdun, like everywhere else in Quebec, continues to worsen under the Liberals. Hundreds of people are now homeless. This is the direct result of the Liberals and Conservatives making rules so rich investors get richer while tenants pay more. Together, the Liberals and Conservatives have lost over 1 million affordable housing units. People deserve better. When will the Prime Minister stop working for real estate giants and start protecting tenants at last? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. What's been done in recent years is I've had a lot of good conversations with the NDP leader and colleagues in the NDP, and I know that they're truly concerned about Canadians' situations and they want to help. But what's obvious is that they have no idea how to go about it. And as soon as the Conservatives attack them a little bit, they hide and run. Yes, it's difficult to deliver progressive things in this country, but we as a government are doing just that. And with or without the NDP, we will continue to deliver for people all across the country. We will provide housing, services, and more.
The honourable member from New Westminster, Burnaby.
No excuses. No one in Canada should be homeless, period. Full stop. And no one in Canada should pay out of pocket to get the health care they need. The Liberals are letting people be charged membership fees, or bundled payments to gain access to primary care covered by universal health care. And Conservatives want people to pay for health care in Elmwood, Transcona, and right across this country. Liberals let you down on health care, you pay. Conservative cut health care, you pay. When will Liberals start making people pay for health care that should be free?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as everyone in here knows, over the past couple of years, I've had lots of great conversations with the NDP, and I know they actually do care about Canadians and about delivering for them. Unfortunately, they have no idea how to do it, and as soon as hard things got hard, they turned tail and ran, Mr. Speaker. Wanted to avoid the criticisms of the mean old Conservatives and tried to save themselves. Well, the reality, Mr. Speaker, is we know that hard things are hard. We're going to continue to deliver progressive solutions for Canadians because we're going to step up and fight for Canadians and not hide from the Conservatives.
The Honourable Member from Thornhill.
The Prime Minister gave the Finance Minister a real vote of confidence last week as he outsourced the job that she was supposed to have been doing for 4 years and gave it to a man who's not even in the Liberal caucus. First, the Prime Minister tried to fire her in the newspaper, and now she's being shoved aside for Carbon Tax Carney, a man focused on his own profits and his own corporate interests, who was brought in to serve as the de facto Finance Minister. She's lost her job responsibilities. She's lost her credibility. How long will the Phantom Finance Minister endure this humiliation?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I am not going anywhere. Focus on personal mudslinging and attacks rather than to actually talk about the economy. They don't want to talk about inflation because it's been down in the target range for 7 months in a row. They don't want to talk about interest rates down 3 times in a row. All they can do is insult people.
The Honourable Member from Thornhill.
Who's going to tell her? She just got a demotion, and he hired a guy that's not even elected to do her job. Does anyone believe that Carbon Tax Carney is going to tell the Prime Minister how to help a family afford groceries as the loudest cheerleader for carbon taxes ever? If the Finance Minister isn't completely humiliated by now, can she explain why Canadians should trust a man who is the #1 supporter of higher taxes to do her job?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we are seeing more clearly than ever that the only thing the Conservatives know how to do is to level personal attacks and personal denigration. They do not care about Canadians, and now they're scared about the facts of our economy. So let me tell you some facts. Inflation in the target range for 7 months in a row. Interest rates down 3 times in a row, and the IMF says we'll have the strongest economic growth in the G7.
The Honourable Member from Calgary, Nose Hill.
This summer, after he argued that Atlantic Canadian home heating oil should be carbon taxed, carbon tax-loving Mark Carney spent a lovely summer of whimsy having champers at the Royal Box at Wimbledon and rubbing shoulders at a swish cocktail party with a wealthy CEO who yesterday, coincidentally, got millions of dollars of tax dollars. This is not someone who's in touch with the struggle of average Canadians, but neither is the Prime Minister. Did he push aside his now phantom female cabinet minister because carbon tax-loving Mark Carney could get him into fancier parties than she can?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, I first want to begin by saying it's great to be back in this place. I really did miss most people on this side, I can't say that I missed all of you that much, but I did miss you a little bit. But what I do want to say is that it's just typical from the Conservatives that when they have an eminent Canadian, someone who has given so much to this country, who doesn't agree with their economic vision or their vision at all in Canada, they attack them. Mr. Speaker, we need to be better than this. We need to support Canadians and be grateful when they put forward for public service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Calgary, Nose Hill.
They're not even letting her answer the question anymore. At a time when so many people are struggling to make ends meet and pleading for someone to fix the budget, I'm struggling to find a reason why the Prime Minister would put an out-of-touch elitist, active archpriest of carbon price profiteering who has massive conflicts of interest in charge of the federal budget while shunting aside his female cabinet minister. What a feminist. Why does the now Phantom Finance Minister have to get approval for Canada's fall economic statement from carbon tax, conflict of interest, Mark Carney?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm actually really glad to welcome back to the QP roster the member for Calgary Nose Hill. We haven't heard her raising her voice for a while. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going anywhere, but I am not surprised to see the Conservatives continue cartoonish personal attacks. And that is because they're afraid to reveal to Canadians their plan for austerity and cuts, because they know that's not what Canadians want.
The honourable member from Peterborough, Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, we have two sources saying the view of some senior officials within the PMO, including Chief of Staff Katie Telford, that the Phantom Finance Minister has been ineffective in selling the government's economic policies. So, it's curious because we have a fake feminist Prime Minister who says he's all for women. Taxes are up, costs are up, the economy's in the toilet, and this carbon tax, Mark Carney, is now going to quadruple the carbon tax on all home heating across Canada. So why is this Phantom Finance Minister okay with being publicly humiliated by this fake feminist Prime Minister?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the only people being humiliated today are Conservative MPs who have to listen to their colleagues wallow in the mud of personal character assassination. But what we are focused on is representing and working for Canadians. That's why, Mr. Speaker, the real news today is 30-year mortgage amortizations for all first-time home buyers. That's the real news, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Peterborough, Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, it is not Conservatives saying that. It's the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Katie Telford, for the record. And so I guess the question is before this Phantom Finance Minister. She simply has two choices. Is she going to join the graveyard of liberal female ministers under this fake feminist Prime Minister? Or, like Jody Wilson-Raybould, Jane Philpott, or will she continue to be publicly humiliated?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, what we are seeing today is the Conservatives running away from the reality about the Canadian economy. They are running away from the fact that inflation is in the Bank of Canada's target range for 7 months in a row. They are running away from interest rates down 3 times in a row, the first time in the G7, and wages outpacing inflation for 18 months. The only thing the Conservatives know how to do is traffic in cheap insults. Canadians are a lot better than that.
L'honorable député de Shefford.
The honourable member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of talk these days about elections. Some are doing their calculations, but for the Bloc, it's simple. Our confidence is in Quebecers, not the Liberals, not the Conservatives, Quebecers. And Quebecers are telling us they're concerned about the cost of living and seniors' standard of living. That's why our priority is to increase old age security for people aged 65 to 74. They're being unfairly discriminated against, and it's got to stop. It's as simple as that. Will the government listen to this simple request from Quebecers? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the next time the Bloc supports seniors will be the first time in the history of this Parliament. Let's look at the facts. When we restored the retirement age to 65, what did the Bloc do? They voted against. When we increased the GIS, helping millions, thousands of seniors in Quebec, the Bloc voted against that too. And when we provided dental care to seniors, the Bloc voted against that too. They're doing nothing for seniors. The Honourable Member for Shefford. The Bloc's request is simple. Our bill, C-319, would increase the OAS for 65 to 74-year-olds by 10%. It's so simple and so sensible that in committee, all parties supported our bill. All that's missing is the government's support. So since all parties agreed to increase OAS for 65 to 75-year-olds by 10%, will the government do the only right thing and give C-319 a royal recommendation? The Honourable Minister of Labour. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to welcome the Bloc with their support for seniors, because this is exactly what this government is all about. Look at what we've done, whether it was the grocery rebate, whether it was increasing the GIS, whether it was the many things we've done, including dental care this year, which is being delivered all across Quebec, including my colleague opposite's riding, which she voted against. Mr. Speaker, we are there for seniors. The Honourable Member for Shefford. I toured all over Quebec this summer to talk about C-319. Everyone gets that it's unfair for seniors under 75 to get 10% less than the rest. Everyone gets that, unlike the Liberals, a grocery bill doesn't discriminate based on age. That's why this is the Bloc's top priority. Quebecers understand the problem. They understand our approach. Will the Liberals finally get it too and give C-319 a royal recommendation? The Honourable Minister of Labour. Mr. Speaker, what the Bloc doesn't seem to get is that actions count and votes here in the House count. Voting against dental care for seniors, voting against bringing the retirement age back down to 65, that's what Quebecers have seen from the Bloc. The Government of Canada will always be there to take care of Quebecers, and the Bloc has never shown themselves to be there to protect Canadians' pensions, whether it's in Quebec or elsewhere. This is our first day back, but I'd like everyone to remain polite. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haut-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc voted for the largest expansion of the federal government ever, more spending than ever, more public servants than ever, more scandals than ever, with Quebecers' money. How did the Prime Minister convince the Bloc to support the most expensive and centralizing government in Canadian history? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, our government is proudly progressive. Our government is proud of our action on the climate. We're proud of our support for child care, and our government is very proud of our support for families. And Mr. Speaker, we know that those progressive values are the same values that Quebecers hold dear. And that is why we are supporting Quebec. We're supporting them when it comes to the climate, to childcare, and we're proud to be doing it here too. The honourable member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. The Bloc claims to defend Quebecers' interests. Is it in Quebecers' interest to support the most expensive government in Canadian history? Is it in Quebecers' interest to raise their taxes, to strengthen the federal government, which is constantly encroaching on Quebec's jurisdiction? It's clear the Bloc is only defending the Prime Minister's interests. What did the Prime Minister offer the Bloc leader to get him to agree to support this centralizing government? The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. Mr. Speaker, look at the Conservatives. They have no shame in claiming that they want to march towards prosperity when all they can do is take the path of austerity. Canadians know that all the Conservatives can do is chop, 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 Mr. Speaker. They cut investments for ports, for small craft. They made cuts to science, to families, to child care services. They cut for dental care. And that is the path the Conservatives will take, the path to austerity. The honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, one coalition appears to have ended, but another remains, the Bloc Liberal coalition, responsible for $500 billion in inflationary centralizing spending. Under this coalition, the public service grew by more than 100,000 public servants. That's the most expensive government in Canadian history. But wait times and service standards have never been worse. My constituents and staff in Beauce have to wait hours to get answers. What did the Prime Minister promise the Bloc leader to keep him in power? The most expensive and centralizing government in Canadian history. The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This summer I had the opportunity to speak to many of my colleagues in the Liberal caucus who met in my riding, and we talked about the cuts the Conservatives made when they were in power. So I took them to the experimental farm because they don't believe in science, so they made cuts to agricultural research. I took them to show a cultural centre that we built because all they did was make cuts to culture. Quebecers remember that when the Conservatives were in office, all they could do is make cuts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, because of Liberal inaction, people in Nanaimo Ladysmith are forced to cut back on groceries to keep up with rising prices. Meanwhile, the Conservatives continue to pad their pockets with donations from the same CEOs who are gouging Canadians. Over the summer, people shared with me that they are exhausted and just aren't able to make ends meet. Why are the Liberals taking a page out of the Conservative playbook by putting corporate greed ahead of everyday people?
Shame, Paul, shame.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, excuse me.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. It's a shame that the NDP's recent hard right turn has taken them down the wrong path. It's too bad that they've caved to the Conservative pressure. We worked collaboratively for many months to introduce numerous rounds of changes to Canada's competition laws, which I think are significant signs of progress that will amount to better prices, more options for Canadians. That includes more powers to the Competition Bureau to crack down on anti-competitive behavior. Those changes are going to make a real difference in Canada's economy.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member from North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, the poorest seniors are receiving hundreds of dollars less every year because Liberal policies created another GIS clawback. This summer, I heard from seniors and their loved ones. They are drowning. Conservatives cut pensions and increase the retirement age. And Liberals are punishing the poorest seniors. Canadians never win with Liberals or Conservatives. When will the clawbacks end?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Labour.
As the member well knows, not only does the GIS or CPP or the OAS go up, but it goes up now quarterly, Mr. Speaker. In fact, there are no clawbacks when the member knows full well that we've expanded, actually, the amount of money a senior on GIS might make before any money is clawed back. We've expanded that substantially. The member should know that.
The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, members on this side of the House have spent their summers listening to Canadians. We heard about grandparents and children getting access to the Canadian Dental Care Plan. And we heard about the need for a government that's focused on building more homes, faster, growing our economy, and making life cost less. What we've seen from Conservatives do all summer is bet against our economy and bet against Canadians for their own political gain. Can the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance share with us the good economic news we saw over the summer and what this means for Canadians and for their families?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague for his excellent question and for his very hard work. COVID and its economic aftermath have been hard for Canadians, and that's why it's important to recognize the good news we've had this summer. Canada was the first G7 country to lower interest rates, easing the burden on homeowners. And inflation has now been within the Bank of Canada's target range for 7 months. Wages have outpaced inflation for 18 months in a row. We have more work to do, and that's why we're focused on Canada and Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, I've been to Sacré-Cœur several times to meet the Boisacco Forestry Company. The employees are feeling very worried, and rightly so, because they're in danger of losing their jobs. The Environment Minister's order is a nightmare for the forestry sector. It's going to kill jobs, shut down businesses. It could even wipe out communities. The sector represents 1,200 jobs in Quebec and nearly 900 million in economic benefits. Will the minister stop and think about the human beings behind his radical policies, and will he guarantee that he will not impose his order? The Honourable Environment Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to be here with you today at the beginning of the session. I'd like to remind my Conservative colleague that the Government of Quebec committed in 2016, and now it's 2024, almost 2025, but the Government of Quebec committed 8 years ago to present a plan to protect the woodland caribou. They haven't done so. Recently, they signed an agreement with us, the federal government, saying that their plan would be ready in June 2023 to protect 65% of the woodland caribou habitat. They promised to do so, so they should do so if they don't want a federal order. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm curious. I'm wondering, can the minister even point to Sacré-Cœur on a map? Inflation, cost of living, interest rates, life is hard enough as it is. Now the Liberals, they just have to add another layer of stress. The Bloc Québécois supports them, and the only way to get rid of this tired old government is to replace it with a Conservative government. The Bloc voted with the Liberals 188 times to keep the Liberals in power. Will the Bloc Liberal coalition leave forestry workers alone once and for all? The Honourable Environment and Climate Change Minister. Mr. Speaker, if only you knew how many times this summer I met with Quebecers. They find this ridiculous. It's ridiculous to talk about a Bloc Liberal coalition. Now, we work well with the Bloc Québécois, but there is no coalition. Quebecers find that really far out. The Conservatives do not care at all about protecting the environment. That's apparent. They don't care about water quality, the quality of our environment, about the future we're leaving our children. We, though, are here for people, for communities, and for the environment, Mr. Speaker.
Calgary, Forest Lawn.
After 9 years of this Liberal NDP government, taxes up, costs up, crimes up, time's up. When the Prime Minister promised to quadruple the carbon tax scam, the leader of the NDP said, yes, sir, anything for his $2.2 million pension. And now, the Canadian Truckers Alliance released a damning report. The carbon tax scam adds more than $4 billion cost to farmers, families, and food. Why don't they just call a carbon tax election now and let Canadians decide whether to quadruple or axe the tax for good?
The Honourable Minister for Environment and Climate Change.
Newsflash, Mr. Speaker. We had a carbon tax election in 2021, and the Conservative Party had a platform where they said they would put in place carbon pricing in this country. Maybe he just has to go and look back at their own platform, Mr. Speaker. Again this morning, the Parliamentary Budget Officer was in committee saying that 8 out of 10 Canadian families where carbon pricing applies get more money than what they pay in pricing, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, the Conservative Party of Canada continues to spew lies and disinformation on this issue.
The Honourable Member from Calgary, Forest Lawn.
The PBO proved that orange jumpsuit, handcuff-wearing minister is lying when he said that more Canadians pay into this.
I know it's the first day back for members. We've all spent this time with our ridings. I'm going to ask the Honourable Member if he could rephrase this question because he knows that you can't. I'm going to ask him to. I am going to ask the Honourable Member to rephrase his question to not use language which is normally considered unparliamentary. The Honourable Member from Calgary, Forest Lawn, from the top.
What this orange jumpsuit wearing, handcuff loving minister doesn't understand is that the PBO proved Canadians pay more into this scam than what they get back. And it's done nothing to stop a single forest fire or flood. It's a scam and nothing else. And the leader of the NDP continues to prop this carbon tax scam up so he can get his $2.2 million pension. That's why he voted in favor of it 24 times. Call a carbon tax election now so Canadians can axe the tax and kick this carbon tax costly coalition to the curb.
It's really important for all members to choose their language and use their words judiciously in a way that is respectful to the House. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, that kind of language from the member opposite is totally inappropriate. And quite frankly, Canadians deserve better. But it's what we've come to expect from the Conservative leader and his caucus, who would prefer.
Outside the House, right?
Colleagues, I could not hear the Honourable Minister give her response. It's difficult for me to hear that, so that I can make sure that the language is correct. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House, please, from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the language from the member opposite was completely inappropriate, and quite frankly, Canadians deserve better. But unfortunately, that's what we've come to expect from the Conservative members and their leader. And the reason why they're focusing on the price on pollution is because they want to distract Canadians from the real agenda, where they cut pensions for seniors, they cut childcare for families, they cut and defund the CBC at a time of increased disinformation. Mr. Speaker, they want to hide their real agenda from Canadians because they know that they won't like it. But, Mr. Speaker, they need to be under that scrutiny and they need to be honest with Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Again, I'm going to ask members on all sides to please make sure that they only address the House when they have recognized by the Speaker to hold the floor.
The Honourable Member for Montcalm. On October 30th, Quebec will move forward for patients and their families. Quebec will implement its own legislation to govern advance requests for medical assistance in dying. 6 professional orders are calling on the federal government to align the criminal code with Quebec's legislation. Allow me to quote the Collège des médecins. We deplore the fact that the federal government has not agreed to amend the criminal code to authorize this approach, which is well regulated and on which a broad consensus exists in Quebec. Will the Justice Minister finally listen to patients, doctors, and science and amend the criminal code?
L'honorable ministre de la Santé.
The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a very sensitive topic. We need to take the right amount of time. We need to study the legal implications of this matter. We also need the time to have a national, countrywide conversation. I need to discuss this with all of my provincial and territorial counterparts. We all need to discuss this and reflect because there will be many consequences, but I look forward to continuing to discuss and work with the colleague across the way. The Honourable Member for Montcalm. Yes, but since February 2023, the minister has been repeating that he's consulting the provinces, that he's thinking things over, that advance requests are complicated. While he was dithering, though, Quebecers are for it. 97% of Quebecers support this, and Quebec has passed its own legislation. Patients want it implemented, and doctors want to be able to practice with complete peace of mind. Does the minister understand that there's a difference between carefully studying an issue and dragging his feet while people suffer? The Honourable Justice Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the utmost respect for the important critical work that Quebec has accomplished when it comes to advance requests. Canada has one and only one criminal code for good reason. Canadians deserve clarity and clear standards regarding what is criminal and what is not. So we are not yet ready to implement an exception for Quebec on this matter, but we will continue to be transparent and we will continue to work in collaboration with Quebec in determining the next steps. Thank you.
Member from Toronto, St. Paul's.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time's up. Just last week, we heard 1 million people in Ontario are accessing food banks. Meanwhile, the NDP leader supports the Prime Minister, keeps him in power, and supports his crushing carbon tax increases. I just finished a successful by-election campaign. Why will the NDP Liberals not let Canadians decide about the carbon tax and call a carbon tax election now?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to welcome my new colleague to this place. It's important, of course, to always be open and transparent with Canadians, and what we see is someone else who knows how to repeat 3-word slogans as opposed to be able to deliver for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, what the members opposite are doing are trying to evade what they actually plan to deliver for Canadians. So I hope that the member opposite can be more honest and transparent with Canadians moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's a good hope.
The Honourable Member from Brantford, Grant.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and now time is up. Canadians are feeling more unsafe than ever. Violent crime up 50%, sex assaults up 75%, car theft 46%, and shockingly violent gun crime over 100%. Will the Liberals finally join Conservatives in protecting Canadians and demanding jail, not bail, for repeat violent offenders?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General for Canada.
Mr. Speaker, my fundamental job is to keep Canadians safe. Here's what we've been doing in the last 12 months.
We've increased.
Colleagues, I would appreciate being able to hear the honourable member's response. The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General for Canada, from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, my fundamental job is to keep Canadians safe. Here's what I've been doing the last 12 months. I proposed new offences for money laundering. The Conservatives voted against. I've increased the penalties for violent carjackings. The Conservatives voted against. I and my colleague, the Minister of Public Safety, have put $160 million to aid the CBSA and law enforcement in detecting and stopping car thefts. Car thefts are down 17% over the last 6 months compared to last year. There's still more work to do. We're going to continue to do that work. While the Conservatives shout slogans, we are going to keep Canadians safe.
The honourable member from Brantford Brant.
Simple fact is criminals have nothing to fear under the NDP Liberal legislation. Bill C-48 has done nothing to stop the crime in our communities. Instead of listening to premiers and law enforcement who have called for bail reform, the Justice Minister pretends that C-48 is a success. Mr. Speaker, it's an abject failure. When will the minister stop protecting criminals, start standing up for victims by reversing their catch and release policies?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I spent the summer listening to victims, and what they talked to me about is intelligent policies and approaches to crime. What we did is pass in this chamber, thankfully with unanimous support, bail reform. The job is now on the provinces to ensure that that bail reform bears fruit. What am I talking about, Mr. Speaker? The people that decide bail decisions are justices of the peace and primarily provincial court judges appointed at the provincial level. The people that appeal bail decisions, such as my colleague in his former capacity, are provincial crown attorneys who are under the direction of provincial premiers and provincial attorneys general. When there's not enough jail space to keep people in jail who don't deserve bail, that's a provincial responsibility.
The honourable member from Halifax West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On this day, 50 years ago, 32 women across Canada took the oath to become RCMP's first female officers.
Wow.
They became known as Troop 17. Today, we celebrate them and all women who have taken the oath since, who selflessly serve in the RCMP to keep Canadians safe. Can the Minister of Public Safety update this House on the efforts made to encourage more women to follow in their footsteps and join the RCMP?
Amazing.
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, 50 years ago, 32 brave women took the oath to become the first female RCMP officers. Despite facing challenges and discrimination throughout their careers, the women of Troop 17 persevered and have inspired thousands of women to proudly serve in the RCMP. Today, more than 1/5 of the RCMP regular members are women, and the RCMP continues its effort to recruit even more women to join the force. I know all colleagues will join me in celebrating the women of Troop 17 and all those who proudly serve in the RCMP today.
Well done. The honourable member from Coast of Bay Central, Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of the NDP Liberals, taxes up, costs up, crimes up, time's up. And now foreign access to Northern Cod is up. With the backing of the 6 Liberal Newfoundland and Labrador MPs, this government broke the promise to allocate the first 115,000 tonnes of Northern Cod to the inshore harvesters, and they caved to NAFO pressure to allow foreign countries back in with 5% of the Northern Cod quota. So this minister, Mr. Speaker, does she work for foreign nations or does she work for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is aware of the cultural, economic, and historic importance of cod for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. That's why, after 30 years of closure, I announced new modern fishing, which will lead to significant windfall for Newfoundland and Labrador, all while leading to well-paying jobs. Our government is committed towards sustainable, prosperous fishing that will support the generations of today and tomorrow, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from New Brunswick Southwest.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes up, costs up, crimes up, and time's up for this atrocious Liberal fisheries minister. She has failed to protect one of Atlantic Canada's most important industry, the lobster fishery. In my riding, there are no DFO enforcement officers along the Canada-U.S. border. Poachers from Maine are illegally fishing lobsters in our waters. They are stealing Canada's natural resources. 60 New Brunswick fishing boats held a peaceful protest Saturday, calling on the minister to enforce the law and protect Canadian sovereignty. Will she do her job, or will the Prime Minister fire her?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our DFO officers do a very difficult job. They do it every day. But the opposition keeps saying that there's no enforcement on our waters. Well, that is completely false. And moreover, Mr. Speaker, it's irresponsible. This work is ongoing.
The honourable member from New Brunswick Southwest had the opportunity to ask his question. I'm going to ask him to please hold his comments and let the minister respond to his question. And I'm certain he has an opportunity to ask questions again on the same issue.
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, and with 12 seconds remaining. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If he can shout, I can shout. We are deploying the necessary additional resources in order to protect our oceans and our resources, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from South Shore, St. Margaret's.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes, costs, and crime are up, and fisheries officers are refusing to patrol the Maritimes because these Liberals will not let them enforce the law. Poachers are attacking with shotguns and knives. Meanwhile, Liberal Fisheries Minister number 6 lives in denial, refusing to listen to the union. 20,000 pounds of lobster a day are poached through the Saulnier Wharf alone. Americans are fishing in Canadian waters. Will the Prime Minister listen to fishermen for a change, call an election so Conservatives can fix the fishery?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I encourage my colleagues to listen to the English interpretation of what I'm about to say in French, Mr. Speaker. What's being suggested is totally false. DFO enforcement agents are doing their job, Mr. Speaker. And on this side of the House, we're not putting on a show. We're working because this is an important matter. This pertains to safety, the safety of our waters and on our waters, and what he's suggesting is totally irresponsible. We will continue to do the necessary work in the right way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Again, I'll ask members who ask questions to please ask their question and then listen to the response and then take up the question again when their turn has been offered. The honourable member from Richmond Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This summer, I was pleased to join the Minister of Health to sign 2 new healthcare agreements with British Columbia. These agreements will enhance wages for personal support workers and improve accessibility and affordability to medication across BC. Canadians believe in our healthcare system, and we must continue to build up a healthcare system for all generations. Could the Minister of Health please share with us how these agreements will support healthcare in BC?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for Richmond Centre for his advocacy in health and to make sure that we have the greatest health system in the world. And you know, we're seeing that unfold in British Columbia with an agreement that's going to make sure that healthcare assistants, what some call personal support workers, are getting a fair wage, making sure that we work in partnership, that the people who keep our hospitals and our long-term care facilities and assisted care facilities going, as well as an essential agreement on pharmacare, making sure that every person in British Columbia has access to the contraceptives they need, has access to the diabetes medication they need, and yes, to menopause hormone treatment, Mr. Speaker. These are huge things for our health system.
The honourable member from Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' failure to fund services through Jordan's Principle is endangering First Nations youth. In fact, in Winnipeg, Spirit Horse Action Therapy is owed almost $400,000. And the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society says this government's neglect is putting kids at risk. When will the Liberals respect their legal obligations to Jordan's Principle and ensure the health and safety of First Nations youth?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister for...
Mr. Speaker, I'm so proud to be part of a government that puts Indigenous children first. First Nations children are getting the services they need after a decade of neglect with the previous Conservative government, ignoring their needs, leading to historic lawsuits and, of course, the compensation required to make up for such a terrible omission. And we are making it right, Mr. Speaker. We're ensuring that no First Nations child goes without the care they deserve.
It's question period. The Honourable Member from Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you. I have a question for the Environment Minister. Northvolt is setting up on the contaminated lands of a previous place. There are jurisdictional impacts. Thousands of people signed a petition for a federal assessment. The mayors of Saint-Basile and McMasterville are wondering what the repercussions of this Northvolt plant will be. Will the minister use his powers to order an environmental impact assessment to study the impact of the Northvolt plant in Quebec? The Honourable Environment and Climate Change Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for Saanich Gulf Islands for her question. The Canada Impact Assessment Agency received a request for an impact assessment, so the impact assessment study is underway. The agency will make its recommendations in the upcoming weeks. The leader of the Green Party and I and many others in Canada are confused, though, about the NDP's position on carbon pricing. I did some door-to-door in La Salle et Marverdun over the weekend, and so many people told me that they don't understand the NDP's new stance because it would be harmful to the whole country.
To point of order, I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the Honourable P.J. Akiagok, Premier of Nunavut. I see the Honourable Member from